Well, it's official. After this episode, I can't trust a single character on guilt, and definitely anyone could be a suspect. Hey guys, Cameron for Guilt, Season 1, Episode 3, Exit Wounds, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I've really been enjoying the show so far, especially last week's episode really started to hook me in. I really started to enjoy what was going on. This episode I thought was really good. I definitely really enjoyed this episode. Maybe there was a bit too much going on. I do think that there was definitely too much going on. Little too much Prince Theo for my taste. Still not really digging the character, but I thought there were some really great scenes, or I thought there was some really great stuff we found out in this episode, and also some really great twists, but also some really great covering up. There's a lot of characters clearly trying to cover up things that have happened, and I think we're starting to get more of a sense of why Molly was murdered in the first place, because obviously there was a reason. But let's just get into this episode because there's a lot going on. I definitely do want to talk about it, and especially the opening I really did enjoy. Again, Daisy Head really is proving to be one of the best parts about this show, and I think she really is a bit underrated. A lot of people have been talking about how great, Billy Zane is, which, yeah, he really is the highlight of the show, but Daisy Head really is a fantastic actress, and this scene really to show that. We see she wakes up, and there are all these hate tweets just about her, how she's, just another rich American, and how she deserves to be stabbed, and how there's a special place in hell for her, and it's really starting to break her, and I think she really portrayed that really well. And also the fact that, if you really think about it, Grace is an outcast in the society. I mean, this is an English society, and she's from America, and people are going to hate on her because she's an American. I mean, think of how we portray people from, like, say, people that aren't from the U.S. We portray them in a very certain way, and just like they portray us in a very certain way. This is how Americans are portrayed, is the way that Grace being portrayed. That's how everyone thinks Americans are, and it's really interesting the way that was done. I thought that was a very well done scene, really way to start the episode. But Natalie basically decides that because Grace is not sleeping well at all, because she's really not sleeping, she's going to try to give her some sleeping pills. It might be the best thing to do. Obviously, this is really affecting her, and I really enjoy seeing that. I like that Natalie, again, I like that sisterly dynamic. That's one of the things that's really carrying the show, and I like that Natalie really is trying to help her. That's something I definitely really enjoyed. But basically, we then see James, who, again, I really can't trust at all, and especially after this show, like I said, I can't trust anyone on this show. There's not really a single person on the show besides Natalie who I can trust. I mean, Natalie's the only one that I'm like, I can sort of trust her, but here I can't really trust her at all. I mean, here, Natalie, I hear there are definitely some characters that I thought I could trust that I can't. We see James, though, he's being blackmailed by Roz to the tune of 30 million pounds, and Roz has basically found pictures of James with the Russian mafia on Molly's phone. Now, why they have these pictures, why he's with the Russian mafia, we have no idea. Remember, James claims that he was in Amsterdam when Molly was murdered, but there are definitely evidence that proves otherwise. So, anything that James says in this episode, I just don't really think is true. I think it's really, I think that's not, I don't think it's true at all what James is saying. I think James totally is just trying to cover things up, and especially what's going on with Stan. Like I said, something is going on with him and Stan. They're definitely in cahoots of some sort. I don't know if they're working together, but definitely, again, James continues to be very shady, and anything he says, I just can't really trust at all. However, for me, my favorite stuff in this episode involved Lindley, because as we know, Professor Lindley was murdered. He's dead, and basically, we catch up with Beatrice. We see after, basically, right away, she's gonna frame Patrick. She's framing Patrick for the murder, and honestly, this is very smart to do. He's an easy target. He's easily someone to blame. We know that, obviously, he's had problems with the law before, so this should be a really easy way to do it, and honestly, she really does it flawlessly, and that's probably one of my favorite parts of this episode, is Beatrice basically trying to frame Patrick, and trying to make it seem like Patrick was the one that murdered, Professor Lindley, and she's claiming that Patrick shot her husband when in fact, it was her, and she does a very good sob story. She's really convincing about it, and she even gets Bruno to think that, again, there's really no question of her doing it. She talks about how she tried to kill Patrick, and then Patrick shot him in the head and everything, and, basically, we know that Patrick's not dead. We didn't know if Patrick was dead, but Beatrice did in fact shoot her husband, and she's trying to blame Patrick for it. I don't know if she's going to completely get away with it. I don't know, especially because something else that's revealed in this episode a little bit later on that I'll get into. But she did a very convincing job of trying to make Patrick seem like a psychopath. And honestly, Patrick, we know, has had problems with the law. And really, the way this is shaping up to be, I really think that Bruno's going to think that Patrick is the one that killed Molly. That it just kind of makes sense. If he had all of these criminal things and he had all these criminal charges and he has a criminal record and they've been following him for all this time, they've never been able to catch him, to me, it seems like there should be, Bruno should perfectly be able to frame him for murdering Molly, and I think that's exactly what Beatrice is trying to do. So I thought that was very interesting, and obviously, they're gonna believe her because, she just seems like a normal, innocent housewife. That's all she seems like. She seems like a normal housewife who, was doing her wifey duties, and then, Patrick came into her house and tried to kill Lindley. Now, we don't know what Patrick was really gonna do. We knew that Patrick was there, and I don't know if Patrick actually would have killed Lindley. Something tells me that he would have, but we know that Beatrice is the one that killed Lindley, and I really do like seeing that. So, meanwhile, though, Patrick he's not dead, but he is in very bad pain after being shot by Beatrice. He was, in fact, shot by Beatrice. He's not dead, but he is in very bad pain. Now, my question is, how does he really, cover this up? I mean, obviously, Beatrice said she did shoot him, so that's the way. She's not letting any evidence kind of, what I do like about this whole thing with Beatrice is that there's nothing about her evidence that counts against it. The fact that he's in pain is because, I tried to kill him from killing my husband. That's exactly why. And he's in pain after being shot by Beatrice, and basically, we don't really know what's going to happen to him, if he's going to be able to come out of this, what's really going to happen there. I do like seeing that. And Patrick, overall, I kind of do feel bad for the guy. Everyone's sort of beating down this guy. He's kind of like Grace in the sense that everyone thinks everything he says, you just can't really trust. And I understand that, obviously, especially with Beatrice framing him and whatnot, it's very hard to trust him. But this guy, he's not really a bad guy. He's kind of just a guy looking for his sister, and he wants his, to make sure, he wants to avenge his sister's death, and I think that's one of the reasons why he went to the professor's house. We don't really know what he was going to do, but either way, she's doing a very convincing job of framing him, and I don't really know if this is going to end up with him, completely guilty, but the way this is looking, it seems like he probably is going to be the one that is basically going to be the sole suspect to blame. I think it's also showing, though, that definitely, no matter what happens, he's definitely not the one that killed Molly. I'll definitely say that, but then we find out something really interesting, that not only was James working for the Russian Mafia, he actually laundered money for the Russian Mafia and was caught doing so by Molly, so we don't really know what his ties are to the Russian Mafia, what's going on there, but overall, this is really interesting. I definitely really do like that. I'd like to see a little bit more of James, because, one, it's awesome to see Anthony Stewart Head on TV again. I'm looking forward to seeing when him and his daughter have a scene together, because they still don't. They actually did have a scene together last week. There was that, so at least there was that, but I think they're doing some good stuff with his character. I really am enjoying that, but we then see Stan is brought to the negotiating table and arranges a meeting with Roz, and basically tells her straight out to do whatever she can to, basically gives her very specific instructions as to what to do, and we do see that Roz, honestly, I don't trust Roz after this episode. Some of the stuff that Roz does, things she says, just sounds very shady, and I don't trust her. Patrick then surprises Gwendolyn at her home, as she's the only one he thinks will actually listen to him, because Bruno's definitely not on his side, so that cancels out that. Obviously, Beatrice wanted to talk to Bruno. She's not on his side. That cancels out that. Natalie is suspicious of Patrick. That cancels out that. The only person it seems like he could actually get through to is Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn's the only one that seems to think that Molly is the sole suspect. She's the only one that doesn't think it's Patrick. She kind of thinks it's Grace. I mean, not Molly. That Grace is the sole suspect, and she kind of thinks that. So I did like the way this was done, and we don't know really if he put his trust in the right person, because this is Gwendolyn we're talking about. Something about Gwendolyn I just don't really trust after this episode. But then we see Pike. He discovers that Professor Lindley had a rock hard alibi, and that meant that he couldn't have killed Molly. So definitely it's not the professor. The professor definitely was not the person that killed Molly. There's no way that it was, there was no way that it was the professor. He had an alibi on his side, and there's no way that it could have been him. So basically, we then get this really good twist. I know some people could have thought this was kind of cheesy, but I think it worked in this episode because of everything Grace is going through and because of her not being able to sleep. She actually ends up overdosing. She takes way too many sleeping pills. She overdoses. She's rushed to the hospital. And again, I think Daisy Hedges did a really good job in that scene with her, seeing just everything she's going through. I feel so bad for her. I can't help but feel terrible for this girl because honestly, she's going through a lot of shit. I mean, think about it. Everyone seems to think that she's the one that killed Molly. I mean, after this, I think it's more Patrick is the one that's, the more the suspect, but everyone seems to think that it's Grace, especially with what she said, the fact that she was laughing, everyone seems to think that, and do I trust Grace necessarily? I mean, she's doing I'll say this, if she's not, if she is guilty, she's doing a very convincing job of showing me how she's not guilty, because just something about the way she talks, the way she acts, sounds really innocent, and it doesn't sound like she isn't guilty. It sounds like she very much is innocent, and I think we definitely do see that here, and honestly, I don't really think that she's the one that killed Molly. I just don't think someone that's this upset and this emotional could have actually done something that bad, but maybe Grace is actually faking it. I don't really think she would, because I think it'd be a really dumb twist, but there could always be the possibility that Grace is faking all of this, and really she is the one that killed Molly. I honestly don't know, but honestly, again, really good stuff, really enjoyed that. But then we get to Prince Theo, who actually has a lot more to do in this episode, and again, this character is just not really doing it for me. This whole sex club thing, I don't care. I just don't care about this storyline, and I know that this show is supposed to be silly, and let me just tell you guys, this isn't great TV. Guild is in no way great TV. It's a very addicting show. I'm really enjoying it, but it's not great TV by any means. I think there are some really good actors on here, and there's certainly some really good stuff about it, but the thing that's really killing the show, and the one thing that I'm like, I don't like this show as much, is Prince Theo. Prince Theo is the one thing I'm just not really liking as much about this show. I just don't think he needs to be as involved in this. I get that obviously there was stuff going on, that Grace and Molly had ties to this sex club, but we find out this huge thing here that Prince Theo actually might have been the father of Molly's baby. I didn't even know that Molly was pregnant, but apparently the baby was his and everything, so it seems like he admitted that this is his baby. However, he does keep a smile on for his fiance. That girl that we saw is in fact his fiance, and I don't care. I just don't care. I'm sorry. The show wants me to care, and I just don't. This is the one character that I just don't care about. I don't care what's going on with Prince Theo. The other characters are a lot more interesting, and this guy's just really one-dimensional. All the other characters have really interesting things going on, and this guy, all we've really seen of him is in this sex club, and now we know he has a fiance. That doesn't make me like him any more than I already did, because I'm really not that big of a fan of this guy. I'm sorry. He's not a bad actor by any means. I think Sam Cassidy's doing a good job with the role. He's not bad. It's just, for me, I'm just not really into this character. I find him just kind of boring and just kind of there. He's kind of just another possible suspect, and I will say, if he turns out to be the killer of Molly, I'm going to be really pissed, because he's the one character that I just don't really feel even needs to be here, and other than being the father of Molly, there really is no evidence that could say that he's definitely the killer. All these characters we're following, they're all supposed to be suspects, and Theo is the one that I feel is the least likely suspect, well, except for Natalie. Natalie we're following because she wants to help her sister, but we see in a great scene, I really like the way this was done. Patrick's running through the streets, basically, he's trying to run away for what's going on, and obviously, he knows he's a target and everything, and Bruno finally gets his hands on Patrick. He arrests him for the attempted murder of Lindley, and it's a really great scene. I like the way that this was done here, because finally, after, not being victorious, he finally gets to arrest him, and after so many attempts, we've seen throughout the show that he's tried so many times, well, not throughout the show, but we have heard in last week's episode, in this episode, that he's tried so many times to arrest Patrick, and finally he's got him, caught red-handed, he thinks, and his fingerprints are all over the evidence, he feels. So he feels that he has him caught red-handed, which of course we know he doesn't. Honestly, I feel kind of bad for Patrick, because really, he's just trying to get away from it all, and really, I mean, this can't end well for Patrick or anyone. So we then see Stan ends up getting mugged by all of these guys. We have no idea where they come from, but just out of nowhere, Stan ends up getting mugged. He loses $30 million and Molly's phone. Now, let me just say, I've never seen a phone like this. Who has a phone that says their name on it as their case? I mean, one, that's really convenient. I'll definitely say it. It's very convenient because if you lose your phone, it'll be like, Molly Ryan, here, please get your phone. It's very convenient that way. But two, it also shows that this person's private information and shows who this person is, and this person could get upset. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. I've never really seen that before. I've never really seen someone have a phone case that says their name on it. My phone case does not say my name in it. Mine just is spec. It's a blue case. Who cares? But that's just something I noticed. It kind of annoyed me a little bit, but he's really, it's, really not doing well. He lost 30 million pounds, and he lost Molly's phone as well. So really bad for everyone. Then we get this kind of phoned in scene that I also really enjoyed. So, like I said, Daisy Head, I think, is proving to be one of the best things about this show. I'm really liking her. What I don't like is that every episode, they seem to be giving her a monologue. Every episode, she's getting this big monologue where she's trying to say how she's not innocent, and this is probably the most phoned-in one yet. This one did not work for me. Look, Daisy Head, I think, really killed it in the scene. I think she did a really good job. But just the way this was done, first of all, it's supposed to be a live FaceTime call. There is absolutely no way that you can do a live FaceTime call. I mean, it's possible to push a button on a phone and you can FaceTime someone, but you can't do a live FaceTime call. You can do a live Facebook call or a live, YouTube stream, but this looked like it was on a FaceTime call. When Stan looks at his computer, it's clearly a FaceTime call. So I don't know how she was able to do this. I don't really know. The show, it's, I guess, TV logic. I don't really know. But she basically broadcasts herself online. She reveals some big secrets that I don't think we knew. That she stole nail polish a couple years ago. Or that, she... actually, we find out came to London because she was failing college. She was going to drop out of college, and basically that's why she came to London and everything, and that's why she's there. And she says straight out, look, I've done all these terrible things, but I for sure did not kill Molly, and it's a really nice scene. Like I said, the scene in general was really good. It's just the way it was done, I just thought was a little bit strange. It was literally on a FaceTime call, but I did think the way this was done, I really did enjoy that, and I think, again, Daisy Head really proved herself to be a great actress here, because this sounded very sincere. I don't think there's anything that counters against her killing Molly. I mean, yeah, there's that video that says, she very well could have killed Molly, but I don't think there's anything, like I said, that makes her not seem innocent, because honestly, here, I think she's innocent. I don't think that she killed Molly. I just don't really think that's a possibility. I think Molly, I don't think she's the one that killed Molly. I just don't think it would happen. She says she was her friend and everything. Now, again, she just could be a very good actress, but I don't think anyone like Grace, especially someone who's that hysterical, could be that great of an actress. She could be that great of an actress that they'll be able to make themselves seem so innocent and so not guilty. I just don't think that she'll be able to do that. I mean, even something like the Peel versus O.J. Simpson, even though so many times O.J. Simpson said, I did not kill her, I wasn't me, I didn't kill her, you see in that final scene, the finale, that he looks himself in the mirror and he knows he did it. So if Grace truly knew that she did it, she would probably say that she did it, because she just seems like a hysterical teenager that will admit anything that she did, pretty much. And basically, we see then we see Beatrice comes in, though. She's finished off her husband. She's now after Grace, and this can't end well, obviously. She's after Grace. We don't know really how that's going to go, but she's now after her, so that's obviously not a good thing. But I really did enjoy the way this was done. Thought that was really good. So, like I said, I definitely think after this episode, there's no way that Molly could have killed, that Grace could have been killed by Molly. I just don't think that Grace could have done it, especially on her own. I just don't think that she would have been the one to do it. So basically, like I said, Beatrice walks in. They get all of the evidence there that she is actually the one that did it. I thought this was a bit too rushed, definitely. The fact that they found out that she was the one that did it. I would have liked for Patrick to suffer more, just to see his, trauma, what he's going through. But she admits that she did it, all on camera, and that gives him the perfect chance, that gives, Bruno the perfect chance to arrive in time and arrest her before she does anything irrational, and basically that's what he does. She's arrested. Basically Patrick's now no longer guilty. She's guilty of all charges, and he knows that she's the one that lied. So I thought it was interesting, but I just kind of wanted to just see Patrick suffer more, just because I think it just would have made this storyline a bit more interesting. But we see Roz, we find out, is the one that orchestrated the entire mugging for Stan, so I think that's really interesting, that she's the one that orchestrated. And then we see she's very devious, definitely, and also very dangerous, and honestly, the way she acts in this episode, I really think she could be the one that killed Molly. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. The way she's very devious, the way she schemes a lot. She just seems like a very scheming girl and scheming bitch, and I really do think that she's the one that could have killed Molly. It just seems like Roz could have done it, and really, I think she could be a possible suspect. So, Patrick's released. Gwendolyn then cuts him a deal, though, to drop all his charges if he goes back to Belfast and stops trying to pursue Molly's killer, because honestly, it's just making things worse for him. It's not really doing him any favors that he's going after Molly's killer. It's really ruining a lot of things for him, and the best thing for him to do is to just leave. And honestly, I'm with Gwendolyn here, because really, this is not working for him at all. It's not doing anything good, and then we get to the end of the episode, which I kind of like, kind of didn't like. We see, once again, we get a montage of all the suspects, which I think we're getting at every episode, but we see Prince Theo has confronted Bruno at his home in order to bribe him, prevent anyone from finding out about him and Molly. Obviously, you know, he wants him to cover up all this information, and the question is, what is Bruno gonna do? Because obviously, he showed up right at his house. He's going to get him to basically not release any of the information about what happened with Prince Theo. I don't think Prince Theo is trying to cover up what's going on, but that is how the episode ends. Let's get into this episode overall. So overall, I will say, I think this episode was a bit more messy. Definitely, it felt more like the premiere than it did the second episode. The second episode was a lot more linear. This was a bit more messy. There was a lot going on. I think a little too much going on. And there are a lot more suspects and definitely a lot more things that I can counter against. I mean, I think this episode definitely proves, like I said, Grace is definitely not the killer. There's just no way that Grace could be the killer after everything she said, after everything she's been through. I don't think that Grace could be the killer. I just don't think it could be possible. So Grace is definitely not the killer. That counters out that. If Prince Theo ends up being the killer, I will lose my shit. I will be very upset if Prince Theo is the killer. I think everything that's going on there, it's just, it's really soapy. I get that the show is kind of a soap opera, it's kind of not, but that's just the one part of the show that I'm just not really into. I don't really care about Prince Theo, his relation with Molly. I don't care as much. I just don't think it's that interesting. I think everything else going on is a lot more interesting. That's like just the one thing. When he's on, I'm just not as into the show, and for me, it's just not really doing much. Patrick, like I said, I don't think Patrick suffered enough. I would have wanted to see a bit more suffering from Patrick, but now, what is going to happen to Beatrice? Because Beatrice completely lied about what happened to her husband, and she revealed that she was the killer right on, on the live thing that's basically everyone saw, which again, I don't really understand how everyone saw it, but whatever. Either way, I think she's going to be brought in for questioning. We'll see what happens with that. Is Patrick going to follow Gwen's advice? I really think that Gwen's not wrong here, that he should go back to, he should leave, and he should stop trying to follow Molly's killer, because it's not doing any good for him. It's going to get him in more trouble than he thinks, and I really think that the best thing for him to do is to just run away. I know it's hard for him, obviously, because of the grief and, everything. It's looming over him, but he really does want to find Molly's killer, and he wants to do anything he can to do so, but I don't think it's going to really do him any good if he does do that. So, Roz. We know that Roz obviously was the one that orchestrated Stan's mugging, so I think that could also make her a possible suspect for Molly's murder. I think she very well could be the one that killed Molly. Just the way that, we hear about what happened to her and everything, I really feel that she could be a very possible suspect, and I don't think she's someone to just counter out. I think she very well could be someone that killed Molly. It would make sense if she did it, and I'm not going to say straight out, oh, she definitely did kill Molly, but I just feel like the way that they talk about her, the way that everything's going on there, I feel like she definitely could be a possible suspect, but we'll have to see what's going on there, because that's going to be really interesting. And then Bruno. What is going to happen with Bruno and Prince Theo? What is he going to do? Is he going to release this information? Is he going to keep it closed up? We don't really know. At least there was no Bruno Gwendolyn side plot that I just don't really give a shit about, because that just is really dumb. Stan's really losing, though. Like, Stan really is not doing well. And again, Natalie continually is telling him that she wants them to go back, and she wants this case to be solved. I mean, throughout this episode, she keeps saying, look, we're not safe here. We don't need to be in London. We want to go back home. And Stan's trying to tell her, look, he's trying to do this as careful as he can, but he's really not getting anything that he wants. And I really think that Stan needs to kind of put this more in Natalie's hands, because Natalie seems like she knows what he's doing, and he doesn't really seem like things are going well for him. I mean, he's now lost Molly's phone. down. He's lost all this money, and I really feel he's going to end up losing this case. I don't think he's going to be able to prove Grace's innocence. Now, yes, they're leaning less towards Grace in this episode, definitely seems like that, but Grace is still a suspect, definitely, and Grace is not any less of a suspect than she was at the end of this episode. So I really do feel that Stan, I don't know if he's really going to be successful. It does not seem like he's doing very well. I think he needs to put this more in Natalie's hands. Natalie needs to be the one to do more damage, definitely. She needs to be the one to solve this case, but we'll have to see what happens with that. Overall, guys, how much you guys saw this episode, left your thoughts on it. I really enjoyed this episode overall. Like I said, just a bit messy, but overall, I definitely enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Unreal, which I cannot wait for, especially after that cliffhanger last week, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.